Mendelian and non-Mendelian inheritance. Gregor Mendel. Who is Gregor Mendel? Gregor Mendel was an Austrian scientist, teacher, and Augustinian prelate who lived in the 1800s. He experimented on garden pea hybrids while living at a monastery and is known as the father of modern genetics. Gregor Mendel, through his work on pea plants, discovered the fundamental laws of inheritance. He deduced that genes come in pairs and are inherited as distinct units, one from each parent. Mendel tracked the segregation of parental genes and their appearance in the offspring as dominant or recessive traits. Through his careful breeding of garden peas, Gregor Mendel discovered the basic principle of heredity and laid the mathematical foundation of the science of genetics. He formulated several basic genetic laws, including the law of segregation, the law of dominance, and the law of independent assortment, in what became known Mendelian inheritance. Mendelian inheritance refers to patterns of inheritance that are characteristic of organisms that reproduce sexually. Mendelian inheritance refers to an inheritance pattern that follows the law of segregation and independent assortment, in which a gene inherited from either parent segregates into gametes at an equal frequency. Mendel's law of inheritance include law of dominance, law of segregation, law of independent assortment. Law of dominance. Mendel's law of dominance states that in heterozygote, one trait will conceal the presence of another trait for the same characteristic. Stated simply, it goes like so: in a cross of parents that are pure of contrasting traits, only one form of the trait will appear in the next generation. Offspring that are hybrid for a trait will have only the dominant trait in the phenotype. Law of segregation. Mendel's law of segregation states that a diploid organism passes a randomly selected allele for a trait to its offspring, such the offspring receive one allele from each parent. The law of segregation states that each individual that is diploid has a pair of alleles for a particular trait. Each parent passes an allele at random to their offspring, resulting in a diploid organism. The allele that contains the dominant trait determines the phenotype of the offspring. And the last is the law of independent assortment. Mendel's law of independent assortment states that the alleles of two different genes get sorted into gametes independently of one another. Mendel's law of independent assortment, in other words, the allele of gamete receives for one gene does not influence the allele received for another gene. Non-Mendelian inheritance. Non-Mendelian inheritance is any pattern of inheritance in which traits do not segregate in accordance with Mendel's law. These laws describe the inheritance of traits linked to single genes on chromosomes in the nucleus. Incomplete dominance is a form of intermediate inheritance in which one allele for a specific trait is not completely expressed over its paired allele. Incomplete dominance is when a dominant allele or form of a gene does not completely mask the effects of recessive allele in the organism's resulting physical appearance shows a blending of both allele. Codominance. Codominance is a relationship between two versions of a gene. Individual receive one version of a gene called an allele from each parent. Codominance If the alleles are different, the dominant allele usually will be expressed while the effect of the other allele called recessive is masked. Multiple allele. Multiple allele are three or more possible alleles for one individual trait. Multiple alleles exist in a population when there are many variations of a gene present. In organisms with two copies of every gene, also known as diploid organisms, each organism has the ability to express two allele at the same time. They can be the same allele, which is called a homozygous genotype. Polygenic occurs when one characteristic is controlled by two or more genes. Often, the genes are large in quantity but small in effect. Polygenic inheritance occurs when one characteristic is controlled by two or more genes. Examples of human polygenic inheritance are height, skin color, eye color, and weight. Polygenes exist in other organisms as well. Six link is a trait in which a gene is located on a sixth chromosome. In human, the term generally refers to traits that are influenced by genes on the X chromosome. Six link describe the six specific patterns of inheritance and presentation when a gene mutation is present on a six chromosomes rather than a non-six chromosomes. In humans, these are terms X-linked recessive, X-linked dominant, and Y-linked dominant.